I want to salute you. I want to congratulate you because you're taking a step to really change your life. You know, we live in a world of talkers, right? Everybody talks about the change they want to make. Everybody's saying this is going to be my year. But there's two types of people. There's people who talk about it, and there's people who actually do something about it. And I just want to make sure, like when you're doing these trainings, like don't do it halfway, because I promise you, there's so much simple information that you can apply to your life that's gonna make change to your life. And notice I said apply. If you've been following me for a long time, you know how I feel about just watching something. You know, buying a book is not gonna change your life. To be real with you, just watching this course is not gonna change your life. Sign up for TIC is not gonna change your life. It's a step towards change. But what changes your life is application, right? ACT, application creates transformation. And so think about things that you can apply to your life. Even if you gotta pause it. We're gonna break up this training into 3 different parts so you can actually digest it and take it in. So let me stop talking about all that. Let me get right into it. Today's training is about confidence. And you might be thinking, why did I pick confidence for the first training? Well, confidence is everything. And self-confidence is everything. And my definition of self-confidence is simply this. It's you believing in yourself. That's it. It's you knowing that you're enough. If you're like me, I spent so much of my life not being confident. Because what you're going to talk about later as I walk you through these things that drain your confidence, but I let all these things externally, right? People's opinions, the fear of failure, all these things take away from my confidence. And it's crazy. We call it self-confidence, but most people's confidence is outside of self. And so my whole goal, I don't really like to use the word goal pretty much, but my whole standard for you is to have you know that you're enough. It's to have you believe at a maximum level. And I'm not trying to make you be arrogant or cocky. There's a difference. But I want you to know that you have what it takes to do whatever it is that you want to do in your life. And it's important because think about times in your life where your confidence was a little off. I remember times when I would ask a girl out and I wasn't too confident and I got told no because she probably didn't believe in me. I know times when I presented something, a business idea, where my confidence was just off a little bit, just a little bit. And it was a make or break thing for me. So my whole thing for you today is to get you to have as much confidence in yourself as you can. And there's 3 things that I want to share right now, just off the cusp, that I want to share with you right now that I do to build my confidence. I didn't always have these 3 things. But with me being a speaker, which we're going to talk about, is the biggest fear ever. Most people would rather die than actually speak. With me playing in front of 90,000 people, 90,000 people in college, in a field, and people, are looking at you, and there's so much pressure. How was I able to find that confidence in myself? So I want to break down these 3 things, and we're actually going to get into the training a little bit. So the first thing that I did and that I continue to do, so anytime I'm feeling nervous, anytime I'm not feeling confident, anytime that I'm doubting myself, I know I'm not doing these 3 things, okay? So the first thing is I give myself permission to fail. You might be saying, what are you talking about, Trent? I give myself permission to fail. I know that perfection, I don't want to say it's a myth, but perfection, everybody's trying to achieve this level of perfection every single time. And if you put that pressure on yourself, like right now, even if I put pressure as I'm recording this training and say, well, I got to be perfect, what's going to happen if I don't be perfect? I'm probably going to stop or I'm probably going to mess up. So I give myself permission to fail because I know this about failure. Write this down, and I want you to understand this about failure. Failure is not final, right? Failure is not fatal. The only failure that exists is when you quit. It's when you stop trying. Any successful person, any success, the foundation is failure. Any person that you see living at a high level, say, Trent, you're a great speaker. People say, you're one of the best in the world. Do you think I woke up like that? If you know my story, absolutely not. I failed my way to this. We're going to talk about repetition in a little bit and how that builds confidence. So give yourself permission to fail. Give yourself permission to mess up. Now, you don't want to do it on purpose. I get that. But you can always learn from it. The second thing that I do that helps me be confident and build confidence in me when I'm doing something is I trust my heart. A lot of people operate from the mind, right? A lot of people operate from up here. And you're always thinking. You're always trying to analyze. And there's nothing wrong. We have a brain for a reason. But so many people don't tap into their heart. They don't tap into their soul. And for me, as in my field with being a speaker, every time I'm up here, people can feel it. Every time I'm allowing my mind to control me, because my mind can be telling me I'm not enough. My mind can be telling me this sucks. My mind can be telling me you're going to fail. But when I operate from the heart, that real connection, you can't lose. Okay, so 2, start operating from your heart. The third thing that's probably the most important is I give myself permission to grow. I give myself permission to grow. And so I know if I'm starting something, I'm not going to be there tomorrow. And that's the problem with this world is that we want to skip the process. We don't want to trust the process. Like we start something today, or I have a business idea, or I'm starting this now, or I'm just becoming a speaker, or I want to write a book, and you expect to be a New York Times bestseller. If y'all been following my journey, you know my latest book, The Greatest You, didn't hit the New York Times bestseller list. And it's okay. Because guess what? I have another book coming out. And if that don't hit it, okay. I don't define myself by that anyway. But I can keep on coming back. I can keep on showing up. And some of you probably have done this in relationships, right? You ask a girl out and she tells you no, you ask a guy out and you keep on coming back. They might think you're a little bit crazy, but you keep on coming back, right? And it's the same thing with jobs. Listen, in this world, the only strikeout in life, I feel like, is when you stop swinging the bat. You can keep coming back to that door. They want to unlock the door for you, okay, cool. For me, all right, I'm going to go around the back door. If that ain't open, okay, cool, I'm going to I'm going to bust open the window. I'm going to do what I have to do to get into that arena, to get into that space. And so when I know that I can grow, when I know that it isn't the end all be all for me, it helps me settle down a bit. It helps me grow a bit. So I'm going to repeat those 3 things and ask yourself these questions. When you're trying to be confident, or when you're not having confidence, should I say, are you giving yourself permission to fail? Most people, no. They telling themselves they got to be perfect. And that's why they walk on eggshells. And you can never create anything great by walking on eggshells. Walking on eggshells kills your creativity. That's facts. The second thing is, are you trusting your heart? Most people aren't trusting their heart. They're trusting their mind. The third thing is, are you giving yourself permission to grow? Think about that. Are you giving yourself permission to grow? Or are you saying, you know what, this is it? There's no redos or do-overs. If you got breath, you always have another chance. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to think about the times in your life when you weren't confident. All right? Write them down on the worksheet. And I want you to ask yourself those questions. Were you giving yourself permission to fail? Or were you expecting to be perfect? Were you trusting your heart? Or were you too into your mind? Were you giving yourself permission to grow? Or were you saying, okay, this is it for me? So think about that. I want you to write it down because next we're going to talk about the confidence drainers, right, that are in your life that you got to get rid of if you want to get maximum confidence to make the world respect your greatness. So let's talk about 5 confidence drainers. The reason I call it confidence drainers is because obviously it drains your confidence. And I know you just spent time identifying the times in your life where you were least confident. All right, we talked about those 3 things, but I want to add these 5 drainers, right, to your mindset because if these things are existing, or I'm not going to say existing because like you can't control some of these things, but if you're allowing these things to control you, to control your mindset, to control, giving your greatness to the world, then it's going to be very, very hard for you to be confident. The first one, which is we all deal with this. I don't care who you are, how confident you are, how perfect you are, is fear, right? The F word, fear. And Let me explain this for a second. I believe that there's two types of fears, at least for me. You have a smart fear, right? The fear that works for you. You got to realize what your brain is programmed to protect you, right? It's always programmed to keep you safe. And that's a good thing, and that could be a bad thing. So, quick story. I can't believe I'm even telling this right now, but this is Inner Circle, so I'm going to give y'all some behind the scenes stuff. Well, quick story. Like a good fear, and I guess this is both. But the fear that was protecting me in a good way, you guys know I love to run. So I'm running my trail run. And again, like I love nature. I don't love everything in nature though. All right. So I'm not like an animal person. I'm not the person that sees like the armadillo and goes up to and pets the armadillo. That's not me. Right. I see an armadillo, I'm probably either speeding up or going the other way. So I'm running this trail, and I've been running this trail for like, 5 years, 6 years. And I'm at a killer pace, by the way. Like I'm training for a half marathon. So I'm at a killer pace. I'm like, I'm killing it. So I see this guy coming on a bike, and the guy comes up to me, and he's like, I have my headphones on. So obviously like, I don't hear what he's saying. So I turn my headphones down. He's like, hey, he's like, hey, he's out of breath. He's like, if I was you, I wouldn't go up there. And I was like, why? He was like, first of all, I'm kind of angry because he's messing up my time. He said, I wouldn't go up there. I was like, why? He's like, there's a pack of coyotes up there. And he was like, I just wouldn't do it. He's like, I was on the bike, man. It's like, it's a whole bunch. And so a part of me was like, man, I ain't worried about those coyotes. But then a bigger part of me was like, you tired? And coyotes got their own mind. And I know a lot of people be like, oh, coyotes don't attack you. It's like the people, you go to their house and they say their dog don't bite, and the dog bites you anyway. I feel like animals have their own mindset. And so I was like, you know what? Obviously, this guy came in my path for a reason. God sent him here. So let me just run back. And I was like, I can actually run longer. So I had to run 7 miles instead of running 5. So I feel that was like a smart fear. So you have the fear that says, hey, don't cross the street during rush hour, right? The fear that keeps you alive. But if I'm being real with you, being straight up with you, there's a fear that's keeping you from living your best life also. And that fear is the fear of failure, the fear of rejection, which we're going to talk about, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of embarrassing yourself, the fear of all those things. And so even when it came to the trail, it's funny how this is a parallel. I started to think about that. I was like, and I love this trail. I was like, I can keep thinking that coyotes are up here, or I can actually change my mindset and be like, hey, if it comes across, I deal with them. So now I overcame that fear, and I'll tell you exactly how. And people ask all the time, too, about public speaking, right? The number one fear in the world is public speaking. You ask somebody to go speak in public. I just left for school, and this kid was trembling. Like, he was shaking. It was crazy. I've never seen anything like it before in my life. But I kind of understood him because I understand the fear of public speaking. Why do people fear public speaking? Something that we're going to talk about in a minute, but they fear judgment, right? They fear looking stupid. They fear people laughing at them, people talking about it. They fear not being perfect. That's what they fear. It's crazy. People will rather, like statistically, look this up. People would rather die than speak in front of people. That's crazy. Like people would rather be in the casket than give the eulogy. Like people would rather stand up, people would rather be laying in the casket dead than actually stand up and give the eulogy. That's crazy to me. But the reason is because of the outcome. So work with me for a minute here and think about this. So I had to evaluate that with me being a public speaker. I didn't always have this confidence. Like I used to be trembling too. I used to be practicing my speeches 30 times for 3 days and 3 months, like over and over and over again, because I was so afraid when I got on that stage. And actually my first big speaking engagement, some of y'all know this story. If you read my book, you know this story. In front of 3,000 kids, like I'm nervous. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna prepare myself. I'm gonna do everything right. And so like, I know my speech. It's a 5-minute speech, by the way. I know my speech like a rap verse. And so I get up there, step up. I'm like, okay. And I did the thing that most people shouldn't do when you're first doing something, is that you look out into the crowd. And I looked out, and even to this day, this is a little trick, side note. Like I wear contacts, but on purpose, sometimes I don't wear my contacts because when I look out, I don't see people's faces. So if I'm boring, I don't see them like going to sleep. So everything looks blurry. But at this point in my life, I was younger, I saw everybody's expressions. And so all these kids are looking. If you never spoke in front of kids, it's probably the hardest audience to ever speak in front of because they'll let you know. So I look out there, and as soon as I make eye contact with this one kid, he's looking at me like, what you gonna talk about? I went blank. Everything I prepared went out the window. And I had a choice in that moment. People always ask, like, how did you get your style from speaking from the heart? Because it was that moment. I had no choice. I had to come from my heart. And literally that moment changed my life. But it taught me a lot about fear. And fear is this. Write this down. Fear is creating a known result. Okay? I'm going to say it slow. Fear is creating a known result from a situation you haven't experienced yet. So, in a Trent term, it's just a straight up term, it's saying what it's going to be before we ever try to do it. So it's like a boxer saying they're going to lose the fight before they step into the ring. It's like me speaking, saying I'm going to suck before I ever step onto the stage. And what helped me come to this realization was, I'm telling y'all a whole bunch of stories, by the way, because I think they're funny stories. If y'all not laughing, I'm laughing inside. I'm laughing at myself. I'm one of those type of people. But I remember my skydiving experience. And this is where this whole fear thing shifted for me, because I used to be terrified of heights, like completely. Like I was the guy that I don't care, like 2 stories. Like I was the brother, like when we had a 2-story house and we would jump off the garage was 1 story, all my brothers would jump off. I used to be the one not wanting to jump off. We used to have a trampoline. We used to jump off. Some people used to jump off the roof to the trampoline. I would not do that. Like I was afraid of heights. And so for my birthday, a while ago, one of my closest friends bought me a skydiving, out of all things, when somebody knows that I'm afraid of heights, buys me a skydiving, ticket, right? Takes me on a skydiving experience. And I'm trying my best. I'm not going to tell this whole story because some of you have heard this before, but I'm trying my best, right, to get out of this, because I'm like, bro, like for a person that is afraid of heights, why would you go buy a skydiving ticket? Because I'm like, you about to lose your money because I'm about to just ignore your calls and not show up. But I don't want to leave my boy out like that. Plus, he know where I stayed anyway, and he's going to call me out on social media. And so I go back and forth with him. And a funny thing was, if you ever go skydiving, there's a weight limit, right? It's like, I think it's like 230 pounds. And I'm like 225 at that time in my life. So I'm like, cool, I'm just going to eat a lot. Therefore, I can't go. Like I can, I don't want to show them that I'm scared. That didn't work, by the way. I guess my metabolism was like way too high. Anyways, I'm making a long story longer. But we go out there and, we get fitted up. And I'm only thinking about everything that's going wrong. I'm thinking about the parachute not opening, and people are like, why would Trent go skydiving? Like you ever like hear a story, you're like, why would they do that? That's kind of dumb. Why would they do that? So that was going through my mind, like people are gonna be like, why would Trent go skydiving? Like, come on. Like you see my skin color. Like I'm not trying to stereotype anybody, but black people don't usually go skydiving. Just is what it is. And so I was like, people gonna be thinking this stuff, and I was like, man, what if the parachute don't open? Like I've never fell out of a plane. Like I know how it feels to go off, like fall down from a roller coaster. Like it's gonna be crazy. My stomach is gonna drop, and I'm gonna throw up. Like I'm creating the most negative experience ever, right? How many of you have done that when you have fear in your life? We're creating the most negative experience ever. Whether it was a first date, it doesn't matter, right? You're creating this negative experience. You're creating this negative outcome. And so we go up in the plane and, we hover at about 8,000 feet. The first guy jumps out and he's like, ah, and I'm like, oh my Lord. And so like, I'm not going to say what I did. But, got the BGs a little bit. I'll just put it like that. Got the BGs, and something slipped out a little bit. Just put it like that. Maybe that's TMI, but inner circle. And like, I'm looking around. You ever like lose your manners on accident and you try to blame it on somebody else, so you start looking around? So I start looking around, and I guess the door being open on the plane, like whatever. Okay, that's too much. Let me get back serious. So in this moment, I'm like, okay, I'm ready. So I'm like using all my mantras, like, let's get it, it's rehab time. Really wasn't working, but I'm trying to use it. I start scooting up. The guy is like, whoa, like hold up, because you got to do a tandem jump. He was like, what you doing? I was like, I'm ready to go, let's get it. And he was like, nah, like this is 8,000 feet. Your friend paid for 15,000 feet, I believe. And I look at him like, what? And to this day, I laugh when he said this because it's so true. But I didn't want to hear it at the time. He was like, bro, if it's your parachute will open at 8,000 or 15,000 feet, you're going to die anyway. So he's like, you might as well go all out. And I was like, well, he does have a point. We get up to 15,000 feet and it's go time. And in this moment, I realized that I had a choice. I could continue to create a negative experience. I can make this worse than what it is. Or I can take control over my mindset. I can take control over my perspective, which we'll talk about in another training this year. I can either make it my power or my prison. So in that moment, I said, why am I so afraid? And you can answer this for me. What was I telling myself? Parachute's not going to open. You're going to use the bathroom on yourself. It's going to be hard to breathe. Your stomach's going to drop. All these things. So immediately what I did was I flipped the script. I said, it's going to be the best thing ever. And I have 2 older brothers, and my brothers are scared too of heights. So I said, I'm the younger brother, and this might be like a youngest sibling thing, but I'm like, man, I can go brag to them. I always wanted to, because they used to pick on me growing up. Like, I've done something that they can't do. Y'all scared. And that's all that I needed. So I jumped out the plane, and I keep saying make a long story short, but I'll drag this out. But it was the most incredible experience of my life. And it had me thinking about all the times in my life when I felt fear. And I realized, dang, I was creating a negative experience. I was saying that it wasn't going to be fun. I didn't see the growth in it. All these things. And I guarantee you, in your life, you're doing the same thing with fear. See, if fear was a door, okay? If fear was a door, and understand, you're never going to walk through that door if there's something negative on the other side. Ever. You're not. Why would you? Right? You're smart. Why would you? But I promise you, you'll walk through that door if something positive is on the other side. Even if it isn't perfection on the other side, but you're saying, when I walk through this door, you know what? I'm going to grow. I'm going to get better. I'm going to have an experience. I'm going to create a memory. You'll walk through that door every single time. So I want you to think about right now, how has fear paralyzed your life? Fear kills more dreams than anything in the world. It's time for you to stop allowing fear to control so much of you. I'm not going to tell another story because I don't want to be on here for 3 hours, but even with water, I had a situation where I almost drowned. And I didn't want to get back in any type of water because I was afraid, because I was tying that experience to something negative. And then I had to switch it around and say, you know what? The only way I'm going to get through this is if I go attack it. So you watching this, I want you to do something today, this moment, something that you are afraid of, okay? Make sure it's safe. I don't want you blaming me. Make sure it's safe, though, right? In a way, because you're responsible for what you do. But I want you to attack a fear. I don't want you to run from it no more, because we talk about this in the rehab process. What you're going to learn a lot about this year is so many people run from it instead of running towards it, okay? So the first thing that drains you, that drains your confidence, that takes away from your confidence is fear, okay? The second thing that takes away from your confidence, that drains your confidence, that makes it almost impossible to be confident, is mistakes, okay? Listen to me on this. Too many times we're attaching our emotions to outcomes, okay? We're attaching our emotions to outcomes. And I always like to give you parables and stories to symbolize for you, to help you understand even on a deeper level. I remember, you can take any team. I'm going to use my own personal story. Any team. If you ask a team that's won a Super Bowl, or that's won a championship, or that's done something great, or you ask somebody who has achieved something in their life, I can guarantee you this. That team is going to tell you the most important game of their season was not the game that they blew somebody out. They're going to tell you the most important game in their season was the game that they lost. Okay? Because that loss taught them how to win. Now, in order to see things like that, you can't allow the highs to get you too high. You can't allow the lows to get you too low. You have to stay focused on where you want to go, right? You have to stay focused on what you want to accomplish. You look at the Patriots in the Super Bowl when they played Atlanta. They were down 28-3, I believe, something like that, going into the third quarter. I'm going to be real. I turned off the TV. You know, people that left the Super Bowl, people that paid $6,000 for tickets, they didn't left. But people ask, how did Tom Brady still have confidence in that moment? Because he wasn't defining the rest of the game by his mistakes, right? He wasn't defining, you know, those moments of maybe an interception or a turnover. He wasn't attaching his emotions to that because, listen, most people in life are controlled by their emotions, right? You got to learn how to be emotional resilient. And if your emotions are controlling you, I can guarantee you this, right? With these mistakes that you're making, you're going to live an up and down life, right? You're dependent on happiness. I always say happiness is not something you ever should depend on. Why? Because happiness works off of what's happening. So if things are going right, you're going to be happy. If things are going wrong, you're going to be sad. I like to say, you know, find joy. And a part of joy is detaching your emotions from certain outcomes. So when things aren't going right, people ask, how can I still smile? Because my emotions aren't attached to that moment. Because, listen, side note, how many times in your life where you had something go wrong that helped everything go right? Might be a relationship, right? I know me, right? Where I had to literally lose relationships that I cared about at that time. I remember my high school relationship. I remember, like, I thought I would never live without this girl. Like, it was my high school sweetheart. And I remember we got into a little situation, and she broke up with me and all that type of stuff. I thought my world was over. Like, I was crushed. But if I would have stayed with her, I would never have met my beautiful wife and have this amazing family with my 3 kids. You see what I'm saying? So it took that loss, that setback, to gain something greater for my life. So maybe, like, write down right now something, because this builds confidence in you moving forward. When you run into a roadblock, when you run into an obstacle, when you run into a setback, this builds this confidence because now you can look back on your life and say, hey, sometimes it takes the wrong path to lead my life to the right place. Like, I had to go through that to birth something inside of me. Like, I had to lose football. That's a perfect example, right? That was a mistake, supposedly, but I had to lose what I cared about, my everything. I thought my life was over when I lost it, but y'all know the story. Really, my life was just beginning. So I don't want to tell you not to care too much, but some of us, we care too much. We care about what people are going to think. We care about, so I love to come to anything that I do carefree. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm reckless. It doesn't mean that I don't give my all. I always do that. I always give 100%. But what it means is that I don't care enough, right, to allow failure or mistakes to hold my life back. So number 2, what's mistakes? The third thing that I want to talk about, and I hope you guys are writing this down and thinking about this, because I just don't want you to listen. Like, I want you to dial in and think about, okay, what does this mean to my life? If I'm you right now, okay, I hear what Trent is saying, but what does this mean to my life? How can I apply this to my life? What can I change in my life? You're not here just to sit here and listen, right? You're here because you want to apply. Third thing that drains people's confidence is opinions, okay? Rejection. Opinions don't matter, okay? You know how many opinions were thrown at me my whole entire life? You know how many people have told me over the years that I could never be the person that I am today? Oh, you look a certain way. You don't dress like a speaker. You don't talk like a speaker. You didn't go to school to be a speaker, even though I took speech communications, but that's a whole nother story. You know how many people have given me opinions? But I don't never allow their opinions to become my truth, because most people that are throwing opinions at you, they don't really know your life. But the problem that happens is, again, we allow, like, our self-esteem to become other esteem. And what I mean by that, you're allowing other people to dictate how you feel about yourself. You're allowing the things that people say about you to change how you feel about yourself. And so if you're always listening to opinions, and I'm not telling you to be like closed-minded where nobody can give you constructive criticism, like, I understand that part. But if somebody's just giving you opinions and haters, and everybody's not going to like you. You're going to have haters. You're going to have people talk about you. You're going to have people waiting for you to fail. As soon as you stumble, they're going to be laughing at you. But the same people that are laughing at you when you stumble, guess what happens when you get back up? They probably jump on your bandwagon. I want you to understand that. You got to stop allowing all these things you can't control to control you. You got to stop valuing the opinions of other people, especially when they haven't lived it, when they haven't done what you're trying to do. You know, it's people that tell me, oh, Trent, your podcast sucks. Okay, cool. Guess what? I'm still doing my podcast. Hey, Trent, your merchandise sucks. Guess what? I'm still making hoodies. Because I understand that their opinions can't stop me. I understand that their opinions can't slow me down unless I give them the permission. You know, even on this side of it, like it might not be other people. Sometimes we're so afraid of no. We're so afraid of the word no. We're so afraid of rejection. But I believe that rejection is just redirection for what's really meant for your life. Think about that for a second. How many times in your life where you've been rejected, right? You've been rejected and it led you to a better place. Or a certain door in your life was closed and you would have never found a door that was meant for your life if that door would have stayed open. So stop allowing no to control your life. And I like to say, fall in love with no. When people tell me no, I'm like, cool. I'm like that door-to-door salesman. You know, the person that goes like, because statistically, you know, eventually once you figure out your yes, the door-to-door salesman, he don't care about no. All he's trying to go get is yes. So, okay, cool. It's 7 no's and I get my yes. So he's trying to get through his no's as much as he can just to get his yes. You got to have that same mindset in life. Stop letting opinions control your life. Stop allowing no's to control your life. All right, the fourth confidence drainer that drains your confidence. This one's big because we all do it, whether we do it consciously or subconsciously, especially in this world of social media. Like you have no choice. Comparison. Where we're always comparing our lives, especially, you know, the thing that happens is, you know, even with social media or even like someone you look up to, what you're doing is you're comparing your behind the scenes with someone's highlight reel. Like you're seeing their best, or you're comparing your year 1 with their year 20. And you're thinking that you should, you know, be at this level. And so you start feeling like you're less, or maybe it's a relationship, like you're comparing your marriage to their marriage or your relationship to their relationship. And I just noticed about comparison. Like comparison doesn't lead to confidence. Comparison doesn't help your life at all. If you're going to compare anything, compare the old you with the you that you're becoming, right? You'll never, ever be confident comparing yourself to others. Like comparison will literally stunt your growth. So what I want you to do right now is think about times in your life that you compared yourself. How has it helped you? I can guarantee one thing that it did for you subconsciously is it made you feel like you're not enough. It made you feel like who you are is not good enough. So you start to become something that you're not, right? And becoming something that you're not will never help your life. And even if by becoming something that you're not, even if it takes you to a certain level, you're never going to be fulfilled. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. So please don't compare yourself. Okay, that's number 4, because if you compare yourself, you will never be confident. Number 5, and this took me a while to get to. And I didn't really realize that this was taken away from my confidence until I really like sat down and like peeled back the layers on confidence, and it was really draining me. I like to call it TYCC, and that's short for things you can't control. Okay? There's certain things in life that are out of your control, right? What people say about you is out of your control. You know, putting something out to the world and how it's received is out of your control. And so many of us, we live in that space. We live in the space of the things that we can't control. And what usually happens is we allow the things that we can't control to control us. Like you can't be confident with the things that you can't change. No way, because you have no power to change it. So the best thing to do is just let it go. Let it go. So if I'm you when I'm going to certain situations, this is what I do. You know, even if it's an argument or disagreement or, you know, whatever, I'm asking myself, what can I control in this moment? What can I control in this situation? Before I step on stage, this calms down my anxiety. You know, when I'm anxious, when I'm excited, when I'm nervous, when I'm fearful, all these emotions are coming up. the thing that I tell myself backstage that calms me down, I say, Trent, what can you control right now? And the only thing in those moments I can control is just how I show up. It's being authentic. It's being real. It's being straight up. I can't control if the crowd likes me. I can't control, if my mic messes up. I can't control if everything's going to go right. I can't. So if I'm staying in a state of trying to control the things I can't, what do you think is happening? I'm creating worry in my life. And when you create worry in your life, anxiety is in the near future, right? And so if you do these 5 things, right? Let me not do these 5 things. If you stop doing these 5 things, but you identify these 5 things, I promise you, you will start to find more confidence. So what I want you to do right now, all right, is to press pause. I want you to go on the worksheet. I want you to write these things down, and I want you to make these changes in your life and put some skin in the game. Get some leverage. Like, why do you have to stop being fearful? Like, why? What's the reason behind it? Because when you have a real enough reason, you'll find a reason not to be fearful. I mean, even think about fear that, like, say your kid was in a burning house. I mean, if you love your kid, most of you would go in that burning house. Is fear present? Absolutely. But you're not thinking about fear. Why? Because the reason on the other side is big enough. That's what I was trying to explain to you earlier. When the reason to go through that door is big enough, you will go through that door. Most times you won't feel fear. And even if you do feel fear, I want to be clear. It doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. Because courage is feeling fear and still going to do it anyway. Remember the second thing was mistakes. All right? Don't attach your emotions to those mistakes. Mistakes are going to happen. It doesn't have to define your growth. It doesn't have to define your success. Let it build you, not break you. The third thing is opinions. Like, people going to talk, let them talk. Their opinions have no power over your life unless you give them permission. The fourth thing is comparison. And the fifth thing is the things that you can't control. All right? Since we talked about the confidence drainers, now I want to change your mindset and talk about the confidence builders. It's obviously simple, right? Things that can build your confidence. Things that I'm very conscious of when it comes to building my confidence. Things I apply to my life, every single day, especially when I'm starting something new, or even me as a speaker, even me as a writer, me as a content creator. I'm always thinking about these things, okay? So I'm not going to take too much time with this, but make sure you're back focused. I know we've been, training for a little while. Make sure you're back focused. If you got to stretch, whatever, I want you to be locked in, okay? So number 1, the first confidence builder is accomplishment, okay? And think about times in your life, right? The more you accomplish something, and let me be clear about accomplishment right quick. Accomplishment doesn't always mean achieving. Let me break this down because I might have lost some of y'all with that. What I mean by that is, it's kind of what we talked about at the beginning. Like, so many times we think accomplishment means perfection, or accomplishment means achieving, or accomplishment means arriving. Sometimes accomplishment is being scared and doing it anyway. That's accomplishment. Sometimes accomplishment is just taking that step. Sometimes accomplishment is just starting, right? There's accomplishment in attempting. Now, achieving is great. Nothing wrong with that. If you do something and you're perfect at it, great. I'm not saying perfection is a bad thing. But if you allow that to be your main focus, it's going to be hard for you to be confident. So realize accomplishment builds confidence. And the more you do something, the more you achieve something, right? In the terms that we're talking about. So if you're setting a standard for yourself or a goal for yourself, and you say, okay, I want to do this, I want to run a half marathon. Your day might look like, okay, well, I haven't even ran a mile yet before in my life. Let me go run a mile. And you might go run that mile, and guess what? You might not make that mile. You might have to walk some of it. Is that failure? Absolutely not. That's accomplishment. You might not have done it the way you wanted to do it, but you're a lot further ahead than not starting at all, okay? 1 win a day. Write this quote down if it's not on your worksheet. 1 win a day keeps low self-esteem away. Okay, so I know when I'm feeling low, when I'm in a low self-esteem state, it's because I'm not setting myself up to win. It's because I'm not winning. And when I talk about winning, it's a part of the protect your peace process that I'm sure I'm going to train on at some point during this year. Set your day up for you to win. Okay, with 1 win, should I say. And that's going to set your day up to win. But one win. I don't care if it's today, for example. For me, it was a few wins, but the win that probably some of y'all wouldn't even associate with me was washing the dishes. It was literally a goal that I had before I left the house. I want to wash the dishes when I wake up. And I do it because, I don't want dirty dishes and I like to get brownie points from Maria. But I also do it because I can check off a box. And the more you check off boxes in your life, right, the more you bring confidence. Okay, so find one win a day. And I promise you, when that low self-esteem creeps in, it'll keep it away. The second confidence builder is consistency. World-class success, or let me rephrase this. Success doesn't always depend on world-class talent, but what it does depend on is world-class consistency. The reason that I'm at where I'm at today is simply this: consistency. It's showing up every single day. I mean, I made videos, as they say, you do 10,000 hours, you become an expert at something. I'm probably well over 10,000 hours. When I first started on this journey, people were like, were you always good on camera? Absolutely not. But you know what? I kept showing up on camera. Repetition, do you hear me? Repetition is the father of learning. Repetition is fear's worst nightmare. When you keep doing something over and over and over again, you become great at it. You have no choice. Think about something that you sucked at, okay? Think about something that you sucked at in your life. I don't care what it is. Think about something that you were not good at, but you just kept on doing it over and over and over again, and you become great at it. People consider you an expert. People think you were born that way. But all you did was you repped it out. You just kept doing it over and over and over again, and what you're doing, you're building muscle memory. I was always a great football player because I had two older brothers, but when I became legendary, in Texas, it's because as a receiver, I wasn't that good as a receiver. As a football player, as a running back, you give me the ball and run. But as a receiver, running routes and being technical, for my football heads out there, you know what I'm talking about? I wasn't that good at running routes. I wasn't. But guess what I did every single day? I ran routes. I kept running routes. I had pretty good hands, but my hands weren't the best. Guess what I did? I kept being on the jug machine, catching the footballs every single day. Bang, bang, bang. And it built up that muscle memory. Okay, so if you want to build confidence, be consistent, right? Repetition. Me on stage as a speaker, it's just repetition. And when you're consistent and you have that repetition, it becomes second nature to you. Think about driving, for example. And some of y'all might still be terrible drivers, but think about driving. Think about when you first got behind the wheel. For most of you, like, you were nervous. You were driving with two hands on the steering wheel. I know I was. I was like, especially at driver's ed. Well, actually, my parents taught me. I did the home driver's ed class. So when my dad was in the car, my dad was cool. But my mom, she's picky on everything. So I had both hands on the wheel. I'm using my blinker. I'm stopping at the stop sign for 30 seconds and all of that type of stuff. Now, I probably shouldn't say this. I might get in trouble. But now I'm driving like I'm a professional NASCAR driver. And I'm sure you guys are the same. What happened? Were you great at it? No. You just kept showing up regardless, okay? So that's the thing. Show up regardless. When you show up regardless, you'll be consistent. When you're consistent, you'll bring and build more confidence in your life. Number 3, this is like from left field. Self-care, okay? Self-care is not selfish. I believe one of my secret sauces is that I truly practice self-care in my life. And it allows me to disconnect from the world. It allows me to focus on myself. It allows me to prepare myself, which we're going to talk about in a minute. It allows me to reflect. It allows me to plan. And so many of us, we're not confident because we're being controlled by the world. Think about this. We're being pulled as soon as we wake up. We're responding to the world. You might think, how does this deal with confidence? A lot. Because the first thing you do when you wake up, if you're being controlled by the world, you're not going to be confident throughout your day because it's out of your control, right? And as we talked about with the drainers, a lot of times we focus on the things that we can't control. And so I'm making sure that when I start my day, I'm practicing self-care. I'm making sure when I start my day, it's for me, right? Because the better I feel, the better I show up. Deion Sanders said it best. When you look good, you feel good. When you feel good, you play good. When you play good, they pay good. And I always live by that. But it starts, right, by how you feel. It starts by how you look. And I'm not talking about from a vanity metric, but just how you feel inside your soul, okay? So self-care builds confidence. And that's probably not something you heard people talk about before. The fourth thing that builds confidence is progression, okay? Progression. And this year, I want each and every one of you to focus on progression, okay? I want you to, some of you know on a weight loss journey, right? What builds the most confidence on a weight loss journey, even though we shouldn't be a slave to the scale because the scale doesn't always tell the truth. That's a whole nother topic. But when you see yourself getting in shape, or you see your mile time going down, or you look in the mirror, you see you losing inches, or you step on the scale, you see the numbers going down or maybe going up, whatever your goals are, your standards are that you're trying to live, that builds confidence. And so what I need you to do this year is make sure that you fall in love with progression. So I want you to track whatever standards that you set for your life, goals, I want you to track it. I want you to look at yourself growing. I want you to look at yourself progressing. And I'll tell you this, it's not easy. Progression is an ugly road that leads to a beautiful place. And so sometimes, even in my life, when I'm not feeling confident, even now, I'll go back and I watch old videos. And I'm like, wow, I'm glad I grew from there. When I'm not feeling confident in certain areas, and even if it's fitness, I go back and be like, oh, man, I was running 10 seconds slower back then. Okay, so fall in love with progression. Life is not always about who you're becoming, right? It's not always about that, because sometimes we get so locked on who we want to become. When we're not there yet, we get discouraged. A lot about life is understanding who you no longer are, right? Understand that you're growing with your life, okay? So that's number 4. Number 5, and this is it. Number 5, preparation builds confidence, okay? How you prepare, and we all prepare different. I get this question all the time, Trent, what do you do before you speak? And some people prepare, they write everything out. Some people prepare, and I'm not telling you how to prepare, because preparation, it varies for each person. But for me, how I prepare is I listen to some music. I don't even worry about what I'm speaking about, because I'm like, life preparing me, right? If I'm cramming stuff in before I go on stage, then I'm probably going to be into my head and not into my heart. And so preparation, it builds the confidence. So you want to set yourself up to win every single day. Put yourself in the best position to win. It reminds me when I was at Baylor. And y'all can look up this play. Just put Trent Shelton scores against Texas. It should pop up. But it reminds me when I was at Baylor. And a lot of coaches, they say this, and it's called like a visualizing, right? Like visualize yourself making plays. And it sounds good. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I visualize. So anyways, we had this trick play because when I was at Baylor, it wasn't that good. We're playing Texas at Texas. Texas is like ranked number 3 in the nation. And we're thinking that we probably could get blown out anyway, just being honest. So we got to pull out all the gadgets to gain momentum, right? Because you want to gain momentum, because momentum is crazy. And so we run this trick play, and it's just like, y'all wouldn't understand the formation set, but it's one receiver, right? It's a jumbo formation, one receiver, and the one receiver is me. So it makes it look like we're about to run, right? Because the other receiver that's really good too, he wasn't on the field. So it's like, okay, they must be running the first play. So we run this play at practice, and what I do is I run the route. Well, I run act like I'm a block because they thinking it's a run play, and then I fake the block and I take off, and my quarterback launches the ball. Every time we ran the play at practice, I kid you not, it didn't work. It sucked. We got sacked, interception. It just didn't work. So I told the coach, I'm like, hey, man, we need to run something else. Like, if we're trying to get momentum, this is not going to work. And my coach said, man, you just got to believe. He said, what I want you to do, he said, I want you to run through this play 10 times. He said, I want you to see yourself lining up. He said, back up. He said, actually, I want you to see yourself getting dressed for the game. He said, because this is the first play of the game. He said, I want you to see yourself run out the tunnel. He said, I want you to be in the huddle, see yourself, hear the play call, see yourself lining up, hear the snap. He's like being vivid about every little detail. See yourself faking the block, see yourself run as fast as you can, catching it, scoring, crowd silent because we playing at UT, and see yourself celebrating. I couldn't celebrate too much because in college you get a flag. So I'm like, all right, cool, I'll do it. So I did it, bang, 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 get to the game. I kid you not. Because when I talk about preparation, it isn't always about, writing out your tasks or your day. Those things are great, but I'm talking about preparing your mind for greatness, right? Setting yourself up to win your day, to conquer your life, right? And it all starts up here. The greatest war you ever will face is not with them. It's not external. It's right here in your mind. And so the play, make a long story short, worked exactly like, and maybe we can add a link to it so y'all can see it, exactly like I pictured it. Kid you not. First play of the game, 67-yard touchdown, national television, probably helped me make it to the NFL, honestly, that play. Scored, everything. We ended up losing the game, though. But my point is, I visualized. My point is, I prepared myself for that moment. And I do the same thing in my life. I do the same thing when I'm stepping on stage. I do the same thing even before this. I prepared myself, not just with information, but I prepared myself mentally. I prepared myself with confidence so I can show up the best version of myself. All right? So here you go. That's what confidence is all about. If you learn how to let go of those drainers, and when those drainers come up, because you're human, it's going to come up. There's no technique to prevent fear, right? There's no technique to stop opinions. There's no technique to, not have any type of rejection. But now when those things come up, now you have a system to be able to evaluate it. Now you can change your perspective. And now you can build your confidence every single day with those 5 things that we talked about, right? Accomplishment, consistency, self-care, progression, fall in love with it, and preparation, all right? It is time to make the world respect your greatness, and it's time that you become legendary. And legends have confidence. You can't become legendary if you're not confident. All right, you have no reason not to be confident because there's only one you in the world. Only one you. You can't find confidence in that? You're special. You're enough. Like I say at the end of every single training, it all starts with you. All right, it's rehab time. Let's get it.